Hi everyone, it's your favorite Literacy Lab teacher here, Ms. Harris, and this is your video that's going to take you through the sample passage and questions that you'll be doing for independent practice. It is going to outline how I want you to be an active reader as you read through these passages, not just read it to read it and answer questions. I really want you making connections. And the second video that will follow this will be the one that'll take you through the answers to the questions. So please make sure you have the story Waking Up a President by Jill Esbaum in front of you. What I'd like for you to do is pause the video right now and go ahead and read the entire story to yourself. You do not need to answer the questions right now. I just need you to read the entire story to yourself. Pause the video and restart it when you have completed it. Okay, now that you have completed the reading of the passage, I want to share with you some of the connections and the details that I noticed. Because in order for you to become an active reader, you need to understand what I mean by being an active reader. So as we start out the story right here in paragraph 1, we're already getting some pretty important information right away. It starts right here in June 1923. You need to take note of the setting. 1923 was what? Almost 100 years ago. And so you need to have this in your mind because of all of the differences. The technology, the clothing, the homes, right? The transportation, the cities, all of these things are different. And if you're going to visualize a story, you must know the time period. I just took note of the characters, right? We have the reporters who are following around President Warren G. Harding. And these reporters find themselves feeling very lucky because he is on this cross America tour, or this voyage of understanding. They're getting to, report on his speeches, the dinners, and so it's a very exciting time for them. They have a lot to report. We contrast this with the vice president, who also is being followed around by reporters, but he has taken a vacation at his father's farm in tiny Plymouth Notch, Vermont. And he is there with his elderly father, John, and they are doing chores and small repairs. And so they make a comment that these reporters probably wish for a more exciting assignment. We already know, because we finished the story, that they're going to get their exciting assignment, but at this point we don't know that. Okay, so taking a look up here, right, at paragraph 3, this really is just telling a little bit about what these reporters who are following him around are reporting on: milking cows, chopping rot out of trees, the boring chores. But I drew a line here, okay? Now, I didn't do this. I didn't do any of these notations the first time I read this passage. I need you all to know that. I read it to understand it, and then I went back through before answering the questions to see what connections can I make? What is significant? This is where things change, and that's why I drew the line. So I do want you to make these notations, but it's not necessarily necessary for you to make the notations when you read, but these are the thoughts and the connections and the visualization that you must do. Paragraph 4, the president has died. We find out it's on August 2nd. I don't need all the details about eating the spoiled fish, but again, we have another reference here to the time period because the news is spreading by telephone and telegraph. Okay, you need to be thinking about what a telegraph is. A series of dots and dashes and sounds, right, that conveys information to the telegraph operator at the other end. Okay, then it brings us to paragraphs 5, 6, 7, and 8. So you need to take note that these are all related because these are the paragraphs, or the small little sections, that are telling how the news of the president's death is getting to the vice president. okay? Because the secondary problem in the story is that the farmhouse that he's staying in has no telephone. So obviously the main problem is that the president has died, and related to that is how to get this news to the vice president, because we're in the 1920s right now. Okay, so here we go. John Coolidge awakes, right, to the sound of these people outside of his house, and it relates to the title of the story right here. He went to wake his son who went to sleep as the vice president, and he is now waking him up as the president. So here is the contrast. These reporters who have been following Calvin Coolidge around his farm and watching him milk cows now have the most exciting news of the time. So they have their wish. They are with the vice president when he receives the news of the president's death, and they are the first ones to be able to report on his reaction and all of the like the goings on of what's happening. So again, you need to be thinking about what reporters do and why it is important that they are there, or significant that they are there. The next thing we realize is that there are laws that dictate from the Constitution about how the swearing in of the vice president to take over the presidency happen, and that the oath should be taken in front of a notary public. And this is explained down here. They're a person who can legally oversee legal ceremonies or witness the signing of contracts. And it just so happens that Calvin Coolidge's father is a notary. And again, you need to make that connection. What is the inference? His own father can swear him in as president. That would be very exciting for a father and a son. That would be a special moment for them. They don't have to go wake up some other person in town. You need to make these kinds of connections as you read. Okay, what do we have on the next page? We have the fact of when all this takes place. 2:47 a.m. His father does not do it in his pajamas. He gets all suited up, even though it's in the middle of the night, because it's a very serious event. And he now administers the oath of office to his only son, and Calvin Coolidge becomes the 30th president of the United States. And then lastly, I just put a little exclamation mark here, because here are these reporters wishing for the exciting news rather than just life on the farm. They get it, and then they rush off to file their reports about his reaction to the death, but they missed the actual swearing in of him to office. And that is a big deal, because now other newspaper reporters were there, and they will have it. Guess what that means? Their papers will have more information, and so they will sell more papers than those news reporters. So again, you have to make these connections. It is not stated there. You have to use your own background knowledge. Whoever has the most information about a story, that's going to be the paper that more people are going to want to buy. Okay, so that's the end of the story and the connections and ideas that I noted. So again, I read it first, and then I went back through to take note of some of these things. That's how I would want you to do these. I would want you to read a story first, then go back through and notice some of those details. Doesn't mean you have to mark up the text as much as I did. I didn't do that much marking up when you really look at it. I made some note about how ideas are related. I underlined some important dates and people. I kind of made note of where the change in the story happens. It goes from just boring background knowledge to all of a sudden, bam, here's your problem. And then really showing those inferencing skills. So what I need for you to do now is answer the questions. Select your answers and try and detail why it is the correct answer, how you know. And what you can do is stop this video, answer those questions, and then start the second video for this sample story, and that's the one I'll use to go over the answers. All right, thanks for watching. Happy reading.